Services discussed in the program. The station does not guarantee the results of any investments made by a listener to this program.
The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network.
This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, you're live.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Gary Quackenbush. I love Wednesday. Why do I love Wednesday? Because it is the day that we get to learn about all things related to real property. And we absolutely love that our partner, my partner on the show on Wednesdays is Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group. Ken is a real estate professional that has been doing it for a long time. And Ken, I think Ken knows everything. I am very not jaded, but I am basically, I lean in the direction of saying Ken knows everything because all I hear from my family that he does a lot of work for, and for me personally, is it's just been a fantastic experience. And got him finally, my dream come true, after working with Ken for over a year, is to finally get him now to be able to be on the radio show and we get to pick his brain. So Ken Pecus, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, sir. I'm happy to be here today.
This is so good. And you know, I may have told you this before. I had a son of mine, my son, Matt, he said, Dad, do you know how you tell if somebody's from San Diego? And he lives up in Lehi, Utah. And I said, it sounds like a trick question. He says, no, totally legitimate question. I said, okay, how do you know that people are from San Diego? He says, they talk about the weather. So funny.
I was in the sun today. I put my face up. I just let it shine on my face, and it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
We're back to San Diego. We're
Absolutely.
good.
I loved it. This morning, I'm out on my mountain bike ride. It was like 5 minutes to 6. The light, it was bright enough to see. I didn't have to have my lights on. I am so excited. Spring, summer, bring it on. Yeah, I love this. So I mean, that's why do we have such a good real estate market? Why has it been good forever? The 64 years I've lived in San Diego, why has the real estate market always performed? Because it's San Diego. Yeah.
Well, I got some good numbers for you today. I just saw some through my industry news. So they just came out with a new median across the country, and so for the first time since 2012, the U.S. home prices dropped by the median to 400,000. So that's the median across the country. But what was interesting about it is they called out a bunch of cities in there. And I just remember these people telling me about how incredible these cities were the last couple of years, and people are going there and buying. And I'm like, doesn't seem to make sense. Why would you go there? And lo and behold, today it comes out with the city of Boise, Idaho, plunging 15% in the last year. Austin plunging 13.7% in the last year. And going back to Boise, they took a home sales drop, pending home sales drop of 78.8% year over year in March. So if you ever want to call a pandemic purchase city, that was Boise, Idaho. I mean,
wow. So how far was the overall drop?
All our friends from Boise there, but I'm just saying it made no sense to me, why so many people were going to some of these cities. And I'm like, well, it's just because they could. But now life is returning back to a little bit more of a business environment.
Yeah.
And let's come on back to where the jobs are.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You see the floods, and every time somebody says, "Oh, there's a flood of people going to," I go, "That's not me. I do not go where there's a flood of people. No way. It's not going to happen because it's just going to I mean, it happened a lot in a lot of different industries. I know this is really totally off topic, but I bought a mountain bike during the pandemic because I decided it was a good time to buy a new mountain bike, and I wanted a really nice one, and I ended up buying one. It was like almost impossible to find. I mean, I searched and the one I found, I just went, okay. I sent them the money immediately, and they said, okay, we'll have it delivered in like 9 weeks. I went, that's ridiculous. Well, because we have to get it from the manufacturer. We have to do, I mean, it's all these different crazy things. Got my bike, love it. It's been fantastic. Now, every single mountain bike store is so overstocked. They're selling the 2021s at 60 and 70% off, and the 2022s they're selling at 40% off. The 2023s, they can't get them off the shelves. Everybody, and there's manufacturers popped up everywhere because it's like all of a sudden, oh, mountain bikes, people are buying mountain bikes. We should open a new industry. And it just like exploded. And then now the aftermath is like, I'm going to buy a couple of mountain bikes just for fun. It's like,
wow. Well, maybe I'm going to go take up mountain biking. I don't know. No, that's a lot of energy. I'll play tennis.
oh,
We'll stick with-
that
we'll-
talk about a lot of
we'll- we'll
energy.
stay in tennis.
Jeez.
There we go.
Hey, if people want to get a hold of Ken, the best way to get a hold of him, I think, is call him on his phone, and that is 619-977-8419. 619-977-8419. And we wanted to go over a couple of things today. We always like to come up with topics that seem really appropriate for the both of our industries. I'm in the estate planning attorney industry, and Ken is all over the real estate industry. And there's always issues that come up with like estates, like you're selling a home for somebody that's passed away or somebody that's incapacitated. And you thought this would be fun to say, let me ask Gary a couple of questions. So here we are.
So it's time to reverse. I'm going to be the new Oprah here for a minute. And these questions, Gary, come from a whole bunch of property I've been selling lately with varying degrees of estate ownership, beneficiaries. I give them my advice, how we're going to go, how we're going to transact the business. But there's inevitably a lot of estate and legal advice that needs to come in. And I encounter people that are getting their advice from multiple different, estate attorney style things. And all estate attorneys are not created equal in some of these advices.
That's
So
right. We all have our own opinions.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to put a few of these scenarios out there and kind of give you what's going on with the real estate side and selling versus the part that you see it from just the legal standpoint, and see how you would recommend it. Okay.
Great.
So
yeah,
here's some. I have some scenarios laid out here, and I'm just going to throw them out at you a little bit.
Okay, so you can lay one out, and then we're going to have to take a break, but you got about 30 seconds to lay it out.
Okay, so the first question is there any reason that an estate should take the trust out of the trust when somebody passes away and change the legal title over to the beneficiaries that will be taking over the property prior to that property selling?
Oh, that's
okay.
Oh, I have a good opinion on that one. Okay.
Great. So
any good reason?
That's the first one I want to talk about.
Okay, we're talking about that. You're listening to The Word on Wealth. This is Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus. Ken's email address is ken@kenpecus.com, Pecus, kenpecus.com. He's the founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. He's a personal friend of mine. He's helped my family and friends. I mean, I give him a high personal endorsement. I stand behind what he does. He's a good guy. Anything to do with the real property, call him 619-977-8419. We'll be back in just a moment. Answer some questions.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST. You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is Faith-Based Investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
So Gary, we've talked a long time about estate administration. So what is that and why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. So have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecus has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecus Group, from single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings. Ken Pecus is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecus.com. That's Ken Pecus, Pecus.com, or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Have you noticed more bugs around the house?
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQlaw.com, 855-5.
Right. Welcome to Word on Wealth. You're here with Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus. Ken's number for all of your real estate needs, whether it's commercial or waterfront properties, anywhere you want, anything you're talking, Ken, about, anything real property wise, you can call Ken, 619-977-8419. All right. Ken asked me a question and you said, basically, I can see what's happening is that some kids inherit a piece of property. There's maybe 3 kids now that are going to inherit this piece of property. Is there any reason to take the house out of the trust prior to selling the house?
Correct.
If I were going to weigh it out and see what the benefit, I really don't know what the reason would be. If the house is being sold, there's no reason to take it out of the trust prior to selling, because the whole time it's in the trust, it's protected. It's covered under the jurisdiction of the successor trustee of the trust. The interest of that house, the money, the proceeds has to be accounted for in the trust. If you take it out of trust, the only way that I would do it is if the kids are going to take a distribution, like literally they're going to now own, the 3 of them are going to own the title as partners, and then they sell the house as partners. But if they want it sold, prior to them receiving the cash, like they don't want the title, they want cash. There's no way I would take it out of the trust. It's way too risky.
Perfect. You would be surprised at how many times I encounter parties that have been given this advice to take it out of the trust, and the only thing I can ascertain is that the estate attorneys or the counseling people that are telling them this is they're trying to get the trust and the estate to be able to file a tax return or something. But if you take it out of the trust, you run the risk of triggering, the reassessments. And there's all sorts of different things when we go to sell the property that makes it much, much more complicated. So I wanted to see from your point of view, if I'm just all wet or if there was some other kind of answer that I'm just not seeing.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I believe that my job is to make everybody's life easier. And if you're talking about, we're going to sell this piece of property, it needs to stay in the trust because it's just protected. The trust has it insured. It's the successor trustees watching over it, managing it. It's under one title, and that's how you sell it. If you take it out of the trust, who's it going to go to? It would have to, if it's going to leave the trust, it has to go into the names of the beneficiaries. And now all the 4 beneficiaries or 3 beneficiaries, they're all going to have to sign the sale contract. They're going to have to sign the disclosures, even though they're limited disclosures when you don't own the property. I mean, they still have to sign everything, all 3 of them. And that's just silly. It's way too much work. And I think it's too risky because what happens then if it's transferred directly? Here's the estate planning attorney side of mine. If somebody says, okay, we want to get it out of this trust so we can close the trust, do the tax return, all that stuff, we're going to transfer it to you 3 kids and you guys go ahead and take care of selling it. So you transfer it to the 3 kids and 1 dies. Now you're in probate because the one kid owns a house and he's dead. And now, and it didn't go to his trust. It went to him personally. So if he does have a trust, you're going to have to do probate to put it in his trust. Then his trustee, could be a spouse, is going to be the 1/3 owner that's going to sell the property. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good reason I can't.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better answer from you. Thank you. It's almost like I had this set up, but I didn't. I just wanted to reaffirm that I thought it was a very bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you the other scenarios.
Okay.
Some of these other scenarios now have to do with how you sell a property and also how the property looks at the end of the sale when it comes to state FERPTA taxes and withholdings. So there's 3 little scenarios real fast. One is a relative passes away, the property is in a trust. There's 1 successor trustee and there's multiple beneficiaries, and they plan to sell the property. That's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is the parent passes away, the property is in a trust. There are now 2 co-trustees, but then there's also additional beneficiaries. Everybody wants to wait a year or 2 prior to selling the property because the parent gave one of the kids who was living there the right to stay in that property for a year. Okay. And then number 3 is the elderly parent passes, but before the last few years, before they passed, just to protect that elderly parent, they had a co-trustee. There's very often that you'd have one of the kids that would be a co-trustee just to ensure that nobody takes advantage of the elderly parent, like say Anna Nicole Smith's situation in how that played out, that somebody doesn't come in and just try to take their money away or whatever. And now the parent passes away, and you have the child who remains the co-trustee and now becomes the successor trustee that has to sell the property. So in all those situations, there's a different situation that comes up when you're selling it from a disclosure standpoint as a real estate agent. And so one of these things so let's talk about that last one where you had the co-trustee that was the child or whatever.
Okay.
The parent dies, but the trustee remains. That person has been the owner of, by the legal standards, I would imagine, the owner of that trust and the assets within the trust. So when you go to sell the property, even though the one parent died, the other trustee is there, that effectively renders that trust not transfer disclosure exempt, which means that the person that's there, even though they really did nothing more than sign along the way, they actually have to go through the process of filling out all the disclosure forms because they've been the owner.
Yeah, they've been
They're
the
not
one
the-
Oh,
they're not the
interesting.
new successor trustee.
What a pain.
So, yeah, so it's something that comes up, but then at the same time, with some of these other when some of these other things, I get a lot of clients that you get to the close of escrow. I just had one yesterday. We closed escrow. You get to the close of escrow, and the trustees literally are the owners of the property because they were co-trustees. They're actually not even getting any of the proceeds. The proceeds are going to some other beneficiaries.
Huh.
However, because they're the trustees and and this was an investment property, the state is going to withhold the 3 1/3%, which they call Cal FERPTA.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a situation that when people go and do their tax planning or when they do their estate planning, they might want to consider all these things while they're thinking about how to help their relative, how to help their parent, how to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
So the question going back to you then is, have you seen, if you get people that come to the end, how would you tell them to fill out, and I think you're familiar with it, that 593 form that that protects them from withholding taxes with the state of California if they're just the trustee and they're saying that, hey, this is all my inheritance, because the inheritance is tax-free effectively as long as it's under the cutoff, right?
Right. Yeah, effectively it's tax-free if it's under the 12 it's like 12.6 million. And then as far as the FERPTA tax, the filling out the 593 form, what happens with that is you have to go through and explain the reason why there should be no withholding, because it's not like it's exempt or anything like that. We go through and do a calculation. And what I tend to do is go through and calculate and give the reason, like, why is there no capital gains tax? Well, the no capital gains tax because of the basis of the property is date of death value, and the property sold for X value, and they just happen to be just about the same. So there's no gain, therefore there's no withholding tax. And I've been able to get away with it that way. Because I'm recognizing that there's the step up in the tax basis as of the date of death. But when you start to hold on to property, like that one you gave me where they're going to hold on to the property for a year or so while that one kid lives there. Well, if the property goes up in value in the next year, first of all, because that one kid lives there, the property taxes are going to go up. For the year that the kid is there, they're going to be, full fair market value property taxes. And then if the property goes up in value, there's going to be capital gains tax when the thing gets sold, because it's not a principal residence. There's not going to be any capital gains exclusion. So I don't know. When I'm talking to clients about, putting together an estate plan, they want to make sure that a kid lives there and then it's going to be sold and all that. I've got to go through a lot of these scenarios and say, well, from a tax perspective, that may not be your best idea. I mean, can't you give them less time to live there? Oh, I don't care about tax consequences. I said, well, let's look at that. Who is the kid going to be able to pay the increased property taxes? Because you paid, $100,000 for your house. It's worth $2 million now. After your death, that property value is the property taxes are going to go based on, $2 million property. So, there's going to be like $25,000 property taxes. It's a couple hundred, almost $2,000 a month. Are they going to be able to afford it? Oh, heck no. Well, then what do you do? So you got to be careful with all those things. And I love that you're bringing up these tax consequences of things, because it all, it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye. For me, it's like all fun and games until the tax man steps in and goes, hey, that property is a deceased property, a deceased person's property. The property title transferred on the date of death. What happened? And if you say, oh, well, we're just going to pretend, we're going to just pretend like it never happened because they'll never figure it out. And then, a year and a half later, you go to sell the property, the county assessor is going to say, oh, and you owe me the increase in tax for the year and a half now.
2 minutes.
Plus you never reported on time. And now they're starting to impose fines and penalties for failure to report.
So it's not like you can just keep the trust going and somebody living there for forever and not have to deal with it, meaning that
not legally, because what happens is, like, let's say that when the trustee passes away, right? The dad in this example, dad passes away, you have to do a notice of death of trustee so that the new trustee can step in. Well, that notice of death of trustee gets recorded. And now the county assessor goes, oh, dead trustee, what's happening? Send me a copy of the trust, what's happening? And they look at it and go, yeah, not only dead trustee, but dead grantor, creator of that trust. Now we're going to reassess the property, and they'll reassess it as of the date of death.
Because the property in the trust states it was his property that he's then eventually leaving on the kids, right?
Exactly. He's leaving it to his kids. The property taxes are going to go up after post date of death. The sale tax base is going to reset, which is all wonderful, right? So you still, the tax considerations are really a big deal. The withholding forms, that's something you can work on. But the other thing, you're talking about the non-disclosure exempt and you're not exempt from the transfer disclosure thing. That was a big deal for me. If you have inherited property and and if you have to give disclosures because now you were the trustee, the co-trustee for like the last 3 years, they're going to say, oh no, you need to do all these disclosures. And this is under the penalty of perjury. Has there ever been a leak in this property that wasn't repaired by professionals? She's going to go like, I don't know. Well, you have a duty to investigate. It's like, wow.
It creates something, and I think people have got the message about putting things in trust, but now they also have to get the message about taking it another step further, and I'm encountering it every day.
Ken, I couldn't agree with you more. I appreciate you bringing that up. This is Ken Pecus on the Word on Wealth, 619-977-8419. Ken, thanks for being on the show today, man. Have a good week.
Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll be back.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com. This broadcast outreach, the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Well, that was good with Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group. He is, wow. He's always a good guy to have on. I can't believe the time flies so dang fast. It's like we could probably be on for 2 hours. We talk, but I'm actually talking about, hey, Ken, stay on the air with me a little bit longer when we talk about these kind of things. It's just too short, too fast. If you have any questions about real estate, it's really time to give Ken a call. And let me explain a little bit how that works. Okay. So my daughter, she wanted to buy a home. She wanted to move to San Diego. This was within the last couple of years, and wasn't really sure what she could afford. Wasn't really sure, without knowing what she could afford, she really wouldn't know where to even look or what range she would be in the housing market. Okay. So I told her, get pre-qualified, like literally go out, do all the paperwork and get pre-qualified. Like literally, how big of a loan could you qualify for? Then look at your down payment. Then you start shopping for houses in the areas that you want to go in. Okay. So she did, she got pre-qualified and was surprised at the numbers and what was available to her. And it was a big deal. She really was, like, oh, there's no way we could afford to pay that big of a loan. Well, the lenders, and we talked to Ken Pecus about this, lenders don't want your house back. They want their money. They want their interest, and they want you to pay it over the term of the loan. So they are not interested in saying, yeah, you can borrow $350,000 when they don't think you can even afford to borrow that. They know with all their numbers that you can afford to stay in the house for that much money. So it was very interesting. And that was the recommendation of Ken Pecus, is get pre-qualified and then go look for a home. Okay. Another recommendation that came up with Ken is somebody was saying, well, I'm inheriting some money and I don't really know what to do with it. It's a couple $100,000. I'm getting it from my dad because he passed away a little while ago. And I don't know what to do with it. Should I invest in real property? Is it too late? Is the market too cold? Is it too hot? What should I be doing? And I literally will tell people, just call Ken and ask him. And I know people have a very full schedule and Ken has a lot going on, but it's never too much for him to do that. And what he does is he'll talk to you, and you'll talk to him, or you could talk to a member of his team. It's usually him, and he'll talk, well, what would you do with $100,000? And he'll talk. And I was shocked because I asked him that personally. I said, on behalf of a client, he has $100,000. He doesn't, he wants to invest it. What do you do? Well, Ken has all the ideas on how you invest it. And literally it was terrific the way he said, well, if you, with that much money down and you can qualify for X amount of loan, if you could, then you can get into a single family property and putting 10% down, 5% down or 10% down. If you want to do commercial property, then you have to put 20% down. So $100,000, 20% down means that's a $500,000 property with $100,000 down. And that means you can get, and he started going through you can get, a duplex or even a fourplex in this area for that much money. I mean, he just goes through the scenarios with you. And does it really make sense to invest $100,000 in real property if you have it? Well, he goes through the numbers. Like, well, if the loan is this much, and then you could, and it's a duplex or a triplex, you live in one and rent out the other two, and fair market rent is X of money. And so, yeah, you're going to be net positive cash flow the day we close escrow. So those are the kind of things that I believe you should not be hesitating to ask a real estate professional. Now, Ken is not going to put you under contract and say, okay, well, you can sign a contract for me and pay me, $150 an hour to talk to you about it. He's not that way at all. I mean, good real estate professionals are not that way. They just aren't. Ken is a great real estate professional, and he will talk to you and give you ideas. He's very good about that. So, the pre-qualifying, what can I do with X amount of money? What about $50,000? What could I do? I mean, he'll talk you through that. It's, it may not be a lot, but it's going to be something. $50,000 down on a piece of property, that's enough to get into something. And it may not be in La Jolla. It, may not be, in some super nice area, but people need housing all over San Diego, and people are selling homes all over San Diego. Now it's a seller's market, granted, but it's still time to get into the market. So but you talk to Ken and ask him about that. It's not 619-977-8419. When you go on his website, it's fun. You go on to, if you go into any realtor's website, but Ken has a good one. It's, kenpecus.com, and Pecus is Pecus, kenpecus.com. And it shows, what houses he has for sale. And, of course they they put up the most beautiful ones and like, oh, wow, I could live on Coronado Shores for $3.5 million and overlook the ocean every day. Well, if you got the money to do that, then that'd be fantastic. If you don't, then he's not going to sell you something in the top floor of the Coronado Shores. But he'll get you into a place because he makes his living by making you happy. That's how he makes his living. And he's been doing it for a long time. Ken's not a kid. He's not 30 or 40. He's been doing it a long time and he's very experienced. So that's why I endorse Ken, 619-977-8419. He's on every Wednesday. Wish he was on every day, but he's on Wednesdays. So that works out. He gave us some great numbers. And median home in the United States is 400, which is like, to me, I thought that was high. And then this decrease in, I love that. Anyway. Okay. So I'm going to continue on the conversation I was having with Ken is what about selling real property in a trust? Now, the thing that I really liked about all four of the things he asked me, right? He asked me one, and then he asked three other ones. And he said, of the four questions, every one was, okay, the beneficiaries have the house in a trust. What do I do? There's co-trustees. Should we take the house out of the trust before we sell it? Trust, 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 trust. That is my favorite word. Favorite word. Because that means that somebody took care of business and did their estate plan. Okay. I was talking to my paralegal this morning, and we had a very interesting conversation about a phrase that I hear in my office quite often. I heard it today again, is when we're working with an estate plan, trying to put things together, and we get into some of the technicalities and the complexities, that's the way this works. And if you do that, this works this way. And so many times people will say, well, it won't matter to me. I'll be dead. Really, if I had $1 for every time somebody said that, I'd have a lot of money because I hear it all the time. Oh, it won't really matter. I'll be dead. Well, it depends on how you believe about that. Okay. My understanding is, yes, it will affect you even if you're dead, because you don't just go off into some vapor somewhere. Okay. Yeah. We talk about the ether and all that stuff, but still, I think you're going to know what happened. And I think you're going to know what you left here. And I think you're going to know whether you did your best or not. So all I'm asking you guys is do your best. It's not perfect. If you can't figure out exactly, who would be the guardian of my minor children? That's a horrible thing to be able to have to figure out, because you're a parent and you have minor children. The last thing you want to think about is not being here and raising your children. But I'm going to make you do that because that's an important decision, because you don't want to say, it's not going to matter. I'll be dead. Really, as a parent, you're not going to say that, because it's like, it's going to really matter, because if you are dead, somebody's going to have to raise your kids. And if you want somebody to raise your kids by your choice, you need to make the decision now on who's going to do that and help out. Okay. So estate planning is a big deal. I love trusts. And I don't just love trust because that's how I make my living and it's been great for me. That's not why I love trust. I love trust because they help people. When people pass away and their money is in trust, the distribution process is pretty straightforward. Okay. When it's not in a trust, the distribution process is a nightmare. We are in probate court constantly. I don't want to be in probate court constantly, as far as I would love to be able to avoid it if people were prepared, but we're in probate court quite a bit because of interpretation of things, because people don't have their property in the trust, or they have a trust that was messed up. Some of the trust work I've seen from other trust, I would say professionals in air quotes, are garbage. And I'm not bashing on people. I'm just bashing on their terrible work that they do. If you read through your trust and it's like, that doesn't make any sense to me, that doesn't sound like what Gary was talking about. There may be something wrong with it. I mean, you should be able to understand your trust. 855-500-TRUST. Get an appointment with me. I'll review your trust with you. I'll put up your estate plan. I'll set up your trust. Let me do it for you. 855-500-TRUST. Let's make it so that things are organized. 855-500-TRUST. We'll be back in a minute.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Gary, your team at GQ Law are experts at solving IRS and state tax problems. Talk about that.
When people have a tax problem, it tends to really stress them out. And one of the things we've been able to do is figure out how to resolve tax problems. One thing we might be doing is setting up a payment plan or getting a collection delay, maybe getting a determination that the person shouldn't have to pay the taxes at all. We do offers and compromise. We do audit reconsiderations. And one of the things that's a really powerful tool that some people don't recognize is sometimes bankruptcy can be used to actually eliminate taxes when there's certain conditions of the code that are met. So we can do all kinds of things. After we analyze your situation, we can figure out what's available, discuss your options, and figure out which ones to implement, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. And we can get people out from under all kinds of tax problems so they can sleep again. That's our goal.
Request your free initial consultation. gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, gqlaw.com.
The biggest financial decision of your lifetime. If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of the Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on the Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity.
We have Chip from Ramona, and he's got a question on trust provisions.
Pecus has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecus Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecus is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecus.com. That's Ken Pecus, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Ryan.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST. Or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're live.
All right. Welcome to Word on Wealth. Happy to have you along today. Happy Wednesday, everybody. All right. We got a caller. We want to welcome Chip to the show today. Chip, welcome to the Word on Wealth. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing just fine, Gary. Thank you for taking my call.
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
listen to you every time when I'm out getting materials and supplies, and I've always enjoyed the program. So
Thank
it
you.
inspired me to go back and look at my trust, which was opened back in 1980 when I was getting out of the military. But there is a clause in there that's kind of interesting, and it says that even if I move to another state, which I have, I've moved to Laughlin, Nevada, it says that it will be administered under the rules or the laws of California. Is this something that can be changed, or is this going to follow me to my death?
Yeah, that's funny that you say that, Chip. It will fall. The thing that happens is when a document is drafted in a state, and usually because the person that's drafting it for you needs to be an attorney, right? You can't, I mean, non-attorneys in California can't really do legal work. They do it all the time, but they're not supposed to. So what happens is it's drafted in California, and so we have to put a provision in there that says it's going to be interpreted according to California law, because what that means is I'm the California attorney that put this trust together, and I have no idea whether it will be 100% compliant with Nevada laws, or whether it will do what we intended to do under Nevada laws. And so I'm going to put something in that says, no matter what's going to happen, it's going to be the California law that's going to interpret this document. So is that really going to happen? If you have your trust and you die in Nevada, somebody's going to pull out that trust, and we don't know in California. I don't know if Nevada law is going to, if it's going to comply with Nevada law. I just don't even know. And so I would put in a disclaimer that would say the same thing. Like, hey, this, we don't know whether this thing complies with Nevada law or any other state. It's going to be interpreted according to California law. It happens with every contract. So it doesn't mean that when you die, if you have, well, let's see. So I guess the question is, you moved to Nevada, but did you take do you have a house here in California still?
I have a second home here in California.
Yeah. So because you have a California home, you need to have a California trust, because the California trust is going to make that property go where you want it to after your death without probate. So you can move anywhere you want, but as long as you own California property, you need to have a trust in California to avoid the probate. It's just like if you're still here in California and I drafted you a trust or updated the trust you have now, your California property would be included and controlled by that trust. And then if you had another property in Nevada, I'm going to transfer the Nevada property to your California trust because I want it to be all interpreted under California law. So now that you've moved to Nevada, you still use your California trust to transfer your California property to the beneficiaries, but we don't know whether the Nevada laws are going to, whether it's going to be happy with the trust. Like, does the California trust stand up in Nevada? And you may go to a Nevada attorney and they may look at it and say, I don't know, it's a California trust. I think you should redo it in Nevada. Maybe, maybe not. But that's usually what we do, because it's like, if you have an attorney that's going to read through the California trust and say, okay, I'm willing to certify as an attorney that this thing is, 100% valid and up to date in Nevada, it's going to be probably less expensive to just redo one based on the attorney's template that he or she has drafted and, put together and built over many years.
All right. I can understand what you're saying. One of the reasons that I actually moved to Nevada was this constant talk in California about wealth tax and income redistribution and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided 2 years ago to sell all my properties here in California and pay the taxes, bite the bullet, and move to another state. But if the trust is administered here in California, I'm just worried that at some point they may come back for another bite at the apple.
Well, I suppose that's possible. Right now, you just don't know. You don't know whether, who knows, whatever state you live in, whether they're going to change laws. And, what happens in California happens in the rest of the United States eventually. It's the California kind of sets the pace is probably what's happening. But the thing is, because you have a piece of property in California, the California property is going to be controlled by California law. Your Nevada property is not. Your Nevada property is going to be controlled by Nevada law. So that's why I think, when you have multiple states like this, all I know is California property that's worth more than $60,000 goes through probate. So if you moved to Nevada and threw away your California trust, made a Nevada trust, and then moved your California property into your Nevada trust, I believe what will happen is then if you tried to do the trust administration in Nevada, Somebody's got to reach back out to California and say, hey, we need this property to be put into this Nevada trust. And you may end up in probate to get the California property sold and put into the Nevada trust. So I always advise having California, make sure you have a California trust to control the California property. Any other states, I don't know. Some of them have probate and some don't. But
okay, well, that makes some sense. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I've had it redone about every 10 years, and
okay.
I think I heard you one time say if it was done after the 2015 or something, it's probably in compliance if it was a competent attorney.
Yep,
Is
that's
that
usually
still true?
that's pretty typical. You try to look at it every like 3 to 5 years, make sure everything's in there, everything's taken care of.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I just had my wife died, and I got remarried, and so I had the trust restated
Okay.
in 2017 to reflect what I wanted to do with everything. So, but I thought I read this one little clause. I thought, well, I wonder what that actually means.
Yeah.
If it's properly done, it never goes through probate anyway. Is that correct?
If the California property won't go through California probate if it is in a California trust. Yes.
Okay, so probably, all right. Well, anyway, I was just thinking probably too deeply.
No, those are the things that you've got to think
what the
about because
clause really means, you know.
yeah. Nope, but I think you kind of you get it now. You keep the trust that's going to be good in California because that's what's going to matter when you do your when your trust gets administered. We got to deal with that California property, so it has to be subject to California law so that you can protect it.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling. All right, Chip, thank you very much. That's Chip from Ramona. All right, we got a couple minutes left. If you got a call for me, it's 888-344-1170. Give me a call. I can answer your question. I got a couple minutes left of the show. Hey, I do want to give this is kind of a heads up. I think what makes this show interesting to me is I get to talk about real shows and real things. I mean, I do this each and every day of my work week. I am dealing with people's trusts and wills and administration and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is just what I do. So this is real for me. This isn't something like I read in a book and I thought it'd be good to do a show. This is reality for me. It's what I do for a living. And I am always worried and concerned about people getting it done in time. The motto for my business, if you will, is essential legal services simply affordably. So what you get at GQ Law is essential legal services, things that you need, things that are going to give you the protection that you need, not extra stuff. So essential legal services simply affordably. And I see people waiting too late all the time. There's nothing more disheartening than to talk to someone on the phone, go out and meet with them at their home. I rarely do that, but every once in a while I do because we need to figure out if we can, hurry up and get a trust done to avoid a probate. And I see it a lot, you guys. It's, with your parents or grandparents, if you think it's too pushy to ask them, Grandma, Grandpa, do you have a trust? I mean, you have this beautiful home in California. When you die, it's going to go through probate unless you have a trust. That's honest to goodness truth. That's just the way the law is. Wish it any way you want. It's the law. It's what will happen. And I don't think it's too pushy to ask Grandma or Grandpa that. That's why we have this radio show. Just tell them, well, listen to Gary's show. Maybe then you'll be convinced. I don't know. But the idea is don't wait too late. Don't wait till you're incapacitated. Don't wait till you have a car accident. Now your brain doesn't work anymore. Don't wait until you all of a sudden, you have a sudden onset of dementia. Does that happen? Yeah, it happens to people. You don't wait until you can't sign your name anymore. Just don't wait. It's really stressful on family. It makes it so the decisions you make are much more limited. If you have a problem with a kid and you think, I don't want him to inherit any money. I don't want her to get any of my estate, because they're just going to waste it. Those are decisions you need to make while you are really, you have your mental acuity, you have your wits about you, because disinheriting someone is much more difficult than giving money to people. Because when you disinherit somebody that would have normally got it, like a kid or like a child, it's difficult. You got to get it right so it doesn't get contested. You're listening to The Word on Wealth. We'll be back tomorrow with Anthony Wright talking about money. That's here on The Word on Wealth. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for being along. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Tell a friend about The Word on Wealth, featured since 1995, with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future.
The information you hear on The Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial